We are in submission willingly or unwillingly. Maybe we don't realize it. We are bound by the changing of the day and night.
Yeah.
And even in the Quran, Allah, God, He points to that reality that in the changing of the night and the day, there are signs for those who contemplate. Look at Islam on its own terms, the teachings, the philosophy, the literature. That will show you the reality of our faith.
Tell me something, within an Islamic country, he would not be free to do something like this, for example. I mean, the controversy obviously is now the blasphemy laws. So they, I mean, that would be from Islam. What is the Islamic response to the lynching of that man the other day in Pakistan?
Questions? I need to go pray.
About Islam?
Yes, Islam is a very genuine, sincere guy.
You're already in?
Yeah. So we're doing tag match. That means I'm going.
Okay.
You continue. There you go. This one is ours.
Okay. Well, you had questions. You can put on your mic. You took it off.
Oh yeah. Right. So how you doing? Okay. We just need to pray.
Who else is here?
You had questions about Islam.
No, I've answered some.
Yeah,
so we left that. We discussed capital punishment. We went through that. That's done. But maybe is there any other question you want to ask? We discussed about segregation. We discussed with Quran. Why is the Quran from God Almighty? Maybe do you believe the Prophet Muhammad or the Quran, the Prophet Muhammad to be the final messenger?
Not yet, but...
Not yet. So maybe we can talk about prophethood.
Well, we have many reasons to believe that he was a true messenger of God. Because when we read the Quran makes it very clear that it could not have come from human mind.
Yeah, the thing about the Quran is, I noticed, like, I started reading it, and I got to maybe the second surah.
Right.
And
Come a bit here, please. Sorry.
And I noticed it's like talking about, you know, the believers and disbelievers. And I think this is repeated a lot of times throughout the Quran.
Yeah. So it divides humanity in believers and disbelievers.
Yeah. Is it the Dar al-Islam and the Dar al-Harb?
No. Humans are categorized in three categories: believers, disbelievers, and hypocrites.
Okay.
Simple.
Is that mushrikun?
No, munafiqun.
Munafiqun.
Munafiqun are hypocrites, kuffar are disbelievers, and mu'minun or muslimun are believers.
Okay.
So this is not to insult or degrade or to put down others. It is simply to clarify who is who.
Yeah.
Right? It is an identity exercise.
Yeah.
So basically, for example, when you sign a form, okay, when you go somewhere, they ask you your ethnic origin. Like you tick the box: white English, white European, Pakistani, Bengali, Indian, and the list goes on. Right?
Yeah.
So it is like an identity exercise. Having said that, then the Quran explains what's going to happen to disbelievers if they don't believe, and what's going to happen to believers so long as they believe, right?
Yeah.
And if they disbelieve after having believed, then what's going to happen to them? So the Quran is clarifying that there is no choice, there is no other option for humans than to worship God. We are in submission willingly or unwillingly. Maybe we don't realize it. We are bound by the changing of the day and night.
Yeah.
And even in the Quran, Allah, God, He points to that reality that in the changing of the night and the day, there are signs for those who contemplate. So you cannot cause the sun to rise from the west, or moon to disappear, for example. You cannot change your seasons. Your climate is not under your control. You may influence it somewhat, but you cannot change it. You cannot change autumn to something else, right? So what you have to understand is that you are in submission to God. Okay, either you do it willingly and submit entirely, completely, or you are in submission anyway.
Yeah, that's what Ali said to me. He said, if I don't submit to God, I'll be submitting to something else, like money or power, some other thing.
You'll enslave yourself to something else. In life, you'll probably be working for your boss at work. Your entire life will be about that, and that's why That's why people end up getting depressed. They come home, they're not happy.
Yeah.
They're not happy. They worked hard for maybe 10 hours a day. They come home, they're depressed because they are in submission to the wrong entity.
Yeah.
They need to submit to God. Once you submit to God, you could be working 24 hours a day and you'll be happy. That's the phenomenon.
Wow.
What we call itminan al-qalb. In Arabic, it means, translated into English, it means tranquility of the heart.
Yeah. Would you say that's why so many Muslims who come to this country work hard, and they, you know, even though they're working more than maybe other people, they're still
no,
happy?
Muslims in this country are not necessarily a good example of Islam, I'm sorry to say. Okay? And Muslims around the world are not necessarily a good example for Islam.
Really?
There are exceptions.
Yeah.
There are good people. And even in Muslims there are categories. There are Muslims who are nominally Muslims. They have names.
Yes.
As if they were born, because they were born into the Muslim families and they were given Muslim names. They have no connection with Islam. They don't follow Islam.
Right.
Then there are those who are semi-Muslim. They pray sometimes, and then otherwise they don't really follow Islam. Then there are practicing Muslims, people who take it seriously, right? Those are the people you need to look at. And even in those, there are examples that may not be so good.
Yeah.
So you have to be fair. I mean, we have to be honest about these things.
Right.
That looking at Muslims may not always lead you to Islam, because sometimes you might find problems there, right? But look at Islam on its own terms, the teachings, the philosophy, the literature. That will show you the reality of our faith, right?
Okay.
And when it is applied, you will see the effects on society.
Okay.
You will see an upright society, you will see an honest society, you will see people...
So you should be able to see that among Muslims, whether here or anywhere else? Or you're saying that they're maybe not the best example?
Yeah, I'm saying Muslims in this country are as diverse as any other community.
Okay.
They are humans. Muslims are humans, right?
Yeah.
So some of them are good, others like look at general British population, English people, let's say. There are good English people, and there are not so good English people as well, right?
Yeah.
So not every single English person is the same.
Yeah.
So there is diversity in people.
Yeah.
Right?
I know. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yes. So Islam stands on its own terms. Ali, you want to take over? No, come back, because you went to pray. So Islam must be understood and appreciated on its own terms. You do not study Islam by looking at Muslims necessarily. That may happen in some cases where you can look, for example, Prophet Muhammad was a very good Muslim.
Yeah.
You look at his life, and that's why a lot of these Christian missionaries and Islamophobes attack his character, because they know that's the root.
Okay.
You see,
because I know in Islam you believe that all the prophets were sinless. Is that correct?
Sinless in the sense that they will not commit major sins deliberately, knowingly. They will not fall into adultery, into intoxication, into lying, cheating, and things like that. They are not like normal people.
Okay.
A normal person walking around will be doing normal things for humans, right?
Yeah.
They might fall in normal sins, but prophets are free from that. This is our belief. But do they make human errors? Absolutely, because they're humans.
Yeah.
If they don't make human errors, then they're not humans.
But you believe the Prophet Muhammad was the perfect example?
He was a perfect example of Islam, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay. He was a perfect example as a Muslim.
Right.
He was a perfect Muslim.
And as a Muslim, a human being?
As a human, there were certain points that he made errors of judgment, even errors of judgment, and he was corrected by God. In the Quran, we have verses where God is correcting him.
Right.
That, hold on, you want this, but this will happen. For example, in one of the cases where Prophet Muhammad really wanted his uncle to accept Islam.
Yeah.
One of his uncles, Abu Talib, who was dying on his deathbed, the Prophet was sitting next to him, asking him to accept Islam. Accept Islam. Say the Shahada. Say that there's a statement, La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, that no one is worthy of worship except Allah. And I, Muhammad, I am the messenger of Allah. He said, Ala millati Abdul Muttalib. I die on the way of my father, which is idol worship.
Yeah.
The Prophet was very saddened. Allah tells him that you do not guide people you love. It is Allah guides people. Your job is to convey.
Yeah.
Just convey the message clearly and leave the people to Allah.
Hey, can I ask you something? Why do you think, say in this country or any Western country, why do you think there are so few like white reverts to Islam? Why do you think it's
so many?
Quite so few. I mean,
I can turn it around and say so many.
Yeah.
There are hundreds of thousands.
Okay.
Actually, there was a study that said 100,000 people come to Islam.
So how many in this country? People.
That is a lot.
That's the
Majority of women.
Okay.
Yes.
70% are women.
3 out of every 5.
Okay.
And Islam is seen as some sort of oppressive religion. Women are oppressed in Islam. Supposed to be, right? And ironically, women are coming to Islam in Britain.
Yeah.
Without anyone pointing a gun.
Well, that's the thing. I think.
And you accept that. We discussed about sexualization of the woman, etc.
Yeah.
And you said Islam has a working model when it comes to the humanization of women.
I saw this video actually where there were girls on the street and they're just Western girls or whatever, non-Muslims, and they'll put a hijab on them and then see how they look with the hijab. They looked.
There's one where, for example, in New York, it's called Walking in New York. So there's a woman who's dressed up in a non-hijab and she's getting harassed, catcalled, and then they put her in a hijab. Now, we're not saying if somebody wears a hijab, they won't get raped. We're not saying that. What we're saying is, for example, like we discussed before, Islam deals with it on a micro level and a macro level. On a micro level is that Allah tells the believers. Sorry?
The battery.
What?
The battery.
Oh.
They want to change the battery. Anyway, continue.
Okay, we'll continue.
So what's your name?
My name is Adnan.
Adnan, Luca.
Luca. Okay. Where are you from?
Born British, parents are from Europe.
Okay. Which country in particular?
Serbia.
Serbia. Okay.
Yeah.
And Serbia has a very long history with Islam, as you know. You're probably aware.
Yeah, I know about Bosnia.
Modern and medieval. You know, during the Ottoman period.
Yes.
Back and forth. Wars between the Serbians and the Ottomans, and then Ottomans came in to take the territory in the Battle of Kosovo. You probably are aware of it.
Yeah,
and things like that.
I know about
so it has caused. You see, there are certain nations in Europe, because they have some history, military history with Islam, they see Islam in that lens, or through that lens, right? Greeks, for example.
Yeah.
Greeks have this history of conflict with Islam and Muslims, right? Serbians, similarly, have this. This is why the genocide, you know, in the 90s, one of the reasons why genocide took place was because some Serbian ideologues had brainwashed their military and some of the generals into thinking that, okay, you can wipe these people out.
Right.
They are not humans. They're not like you, right? They are the enemy. And amazingly, a lot of these people were ethnically exactly the same. They came from the same background.
Yeah,
right?
just some had accepted Islam, others hadn't.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have to put aside this history and see beyond this.
Yeah.
You know why he's doing this? Do you have any idea?
Well, he's heckling, isn't he?
No, he's not. He's doing it so that we cannot do this. We cannot have conversations. They are here for a reason.
And what did I say to you? Remember, I said the only thing they fear is not we are going to go and blow ourselves up. It's this. This is the biggest fear.
Us talking.
Dawah.
Okay.
That's what Allah says in the Quran. Strive with them with a greater jihad. And you know what the scholars say? It's talking about the Quran.
Yeah. But they always portray Muslims as violent or
A group
whatever.
of people stop talking about their own religion, Trinity, the Bible, and focus on Islam.
Yeah.
Where is it?
Yeah, because this is now two reasons. One reason is that you don't have to defend your false faith. The other reason is it brings money. Attacking Islam, Islamophobia industry pays well.
Right. It's a lie. It's a lie.
Did you take the medicine?
Leave, carry on.
Anything coming out of
Right.
the Muslims
So
it's a lie.
So anyway, we can continue. Don't worry about it. So coming back to our issue, our question, that there are many people in Europe, not only in Britain, many people in Europe, they are accepting Islam because their current system is not offering anything to them.
Yeah.
There are people in Poland, there are people in Latvia, Lithuania, because previously they were completely blind to Islam. They had no idea what Islam is. Now with social media, they are on their phones, they are watching videos, they are reading stuff, and the governments cannot stop that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just asked Ali, what's the attraction of Islam? What do you feel Islam gives you that you don't find in?
Most importantly, a cleaner life, a cleaner mind, and a cleaner, more rational faith.
Okay. And do you
A way to live, something to live for, because anything other than Islam fails to provide that.
Yeah.
Christianity fails to provide intellectual satisfaction. It doesn't satisfy you.
It's confusing.
It's very confusing. When you read the Bible, you know this is not from God. You know, I mean, any sane person, any honest person. I'm not saying Christians are insane. There are scholars among Christians, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes you need to have the sincerity to accept it, right? A lot of these people are not sincere, unfortunately. So you read the Bible with an open mind. You know this is not from God. This is all messed up. This is it's a mashup. It's a mashed potato, as they say, right? It's all over the place.
Yeah.
With the Quran, it has a consistent message from page 1 to the page last.
Because I've heard Christians say that in the Quran you have the stories of some of the prophets taken from the Bible, and they would say the Quran, they just have shortened versions of the stories.
In the Quran, we have stories that are similar to the biblical stories.
Yeah.
They're not the same.
Okay.
They're not borrowed. Because when we look at the details, we come to realize the Quran, for some reason, somehow corrects the mistakes of the Bible.
And not only that, Ustad, it came to defend the honor of the Prophet. Because if you look into the Bible, it tells you that Lut had intimacy with his own daughters. So the Quran came to defend the honor by rejecting these notions of how the prophets slept.
Yeah, this is the point I was making. In the Bible, they say the prophets committed some sins, whereas in the Quran, they didn't commit sins.
David is getting
adultery and murder, they say.
So we don't have that.
Okay.
This is how we know that the Bible has been corrupted. Some corrupt minds, corrupt people inserted their ideas into the Bible. And there is no doubt about that, right? Even Jewish and Christian scholars will admit to that there are passages, there are parts of the Bible that have been interpolated, right? So now, what do? We have two choices: either to continue following the way that was given to us to us by our ancestors, or we rethink our existence. We rethink our entire life. Is this the truth? Is this the way to God? Firstly, God exists. We cannot escape from that. There is no escaping from that. If God exists, then which way is the clearest? Easiest, and
can you go away?
He's not going to go. He's not going to go.
Are you a Christian?
Culturally Christian, but now I'm agnostic.
As a Christian, how do you see that coming from another Christian?
But he's not a Christian.
Culturally, but as a human being, when you see that, does that show you how strong Christianity is?
I mean, he's just behaving like a fool.
Why does someone have... We're having a very calm, decent discussion, a conversation, right? And we're not promoting any violence, any evil, or anything like that. Why is he so upset? What makes you... I mean, have you
you tell me.
Why would someone come here on Sunday to do that?
You know what he said? He said, I actually find it very interesting. Why all these people come together against Islam? Like the ex-Muslims, the Christians, the atheists, like they all come together into Islam. And he found that, like, what is it that in Islam? And this is what we're trying to say. When the truth is spoken,
people are against it.
Yes, because they know it's the truth. And they don't like that. And that's the reason why God Almighty in the Quran mentioned this to the prophets. Because warning him, they are going to come and kill you. And that's exactly what the pagan Arabs attempted. And he had to run away. Because what they would do is they would try to mock your message. Then they would try to stop it. Then tried to come.
This happened to our prophet.
Yes. And when
he was preaching, there were people. They would come and do exactly this. They would do this. They would shout on top of his voice so the people cannot hear him. Right? This is we believe, just as Allah is consistent with his message and his people, Satan is also consistent with his methodology and his people. Okay. This is Satanism.
Tell me something. Within an Islamic country, he would not be free to do something like this, for example.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I wouldn't be free to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
In a Muslim country.
Look, they are women. We don't claim if there is such a thing called Islamic country.
Yeah.
I believe it doesn't exist. There is no
Muslim
country-
majority or
there is
countries
no
where
country in the world that implements the law of Islam.
not even
Okay.
Pakistan or Saudi Arabia?
Absolutely not. This is one of the greatest misconceptions. They are secular countries. They are following the Western model.
Because I mean, it's called the Islamic Republic of Pakistan or the Islamic Republic of Iran.
These guys who kill innocent people say we're Muslims.
If I call myself Mr. Olympia,
Okay.
do I look like Mr. Olympia? If I put a badge on myself, Mr. Olympia,
Right.
you laugh at me, right? Likewise, if a country calls itself Islamic Republic such and such,
Yeah.
it doesn't make
Because that should mean that Sharia is part of the constitutional law of the country or the penal
Only
code
nominally.
of the country or
nominally
other laws.
it's mentioned.
Okay.
It's mentioned, but it's not followed.
Okay.
Constitutionally, if you look at the law,
Yeah.
it's the British law. In Pakistan,
Yeah.
the courts are running by the British law.
Right.
They don't follow the Islamic law. It's
Yeah.
not an Islamic country for as such.
Because I mean, the controversy obviously is now, about the blasphemy laws. So they, I mean, that would be from Islam, wouldn't it?
Oh, he's drinking water.
Laws relating
Drink
to
more, drink
blasphemy.
more.
Like,
Do you need it?
I mean,
You're not doing anything to us.
I mean, okay, what is the Islamic response to the lynching of that man in Pakistan?
What is that?
To that man who was murdered the other day in Pakistan. What is your response?
Islamic position is very clear, which we made us. We made it very clear online that this is barbarity.
Yeah.
This is just like the guy walking into the mosque and spraying 50 people in New Zealand, right?
Yeah.
These are a bunch of.
So why did those people do that if they're Muslims? If they're Muslims, they should be
They are ignorant.
a higher example.
Just like a crowd of racist people.
Yeah.
You must have seen a mob of racist people.
Yeah.
If I walk in there and I start saying things they don't like, they're gonna kill me.
Yeah.
Any mob in any place, anywhere in the world, a mob is a mob.
Yes.
Okay.
They'll just murder someone, just on.
Mob.
It's not exclusive to Islam. Like I said before,
Yeah, I know.
if I
I'm
go
just
to a
trying-
white nationalist area and spit on a picture of Churchill,
They could murder you.
Islamically speaking,
Yeah.
Islamically speaking, there is no mob justice in Islam.
Yeah.
The crowd cannot become judge, jury, and the executioner.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Vigilante.
Even vigilante justice.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. in Islam.
Yeah.
If you kill someone,
Yeah.
having accused them, you will be punished
For murder.
in return.
Yeah.
It's murder.
It's murder.
Even if the person was, let's say, he raped someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there was a guy who raped someone,
Yeah.
right? If you try to save a woman while the guy is raping and there's a fight, there's a scuffle, that's a different matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you if it's a cold-blooded murder of
Yeah.
someone, you will have to answer to the court, right?
Yeah.
So Islam does not promote vigilante justice, mob violence, or mob execution.
Is there a death penalty for blasphemy then, or for apostasy?
It depends where you are. If the law of Islam is applied in a country
Yeah.
entirely, if it's ruled by it.
But is it that
right,
in the Sharia
then-
or?
Yes, it's there. I mean, academics have talked about it.
Yeah.
If you want to know more about it, Western academics have written books on the Sharia law.
I mean, it's just I'm very concerned. Like, if I became a Muslim and God forbid, I said something against Islam, could I theoretically, or in a country with Sharia, I could be executed?
If
couldn't
you
I?
went public in an Islamic domain, here
Yeah.
people are always talking about Islam and cursing Islam and saying all sorts of evil things about Islam.
Yeah.
This is the West. This
Right.
is Islamic law doesn't apply here. It's
Yeah.
not applied here. But if you were in a Muslim country,
Yeah.
and if you went in public attacking Islam, the Prophet of Islam, forget about the law.
Yeah. I'd probably be lynched by a mob.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I mean, that's
unfortunately.
I wouldn't want that to happen to me.
No, that can happen here.
No,
Yeah.
but
That can happen here. If I
Yes.
publicly stand up somewhere
my point.
and insult the sacred
let's say in Russia, you insult Putin.
no, Putin
I
is
mean,
not sacred.
here in
Yeah, but you'll be picked up by the intelligence. That's a different matter.
No, what would the Russians do to you?
Yeah.
No, let's be real. The thing is, this is not
It depends where you are in Russia.
Like I said before, this is not exclusive to Islam. Try this in a predominantly Christian Orthodox country, you'll get the same results. Go to a black community and use the N-word, you get the same result. Go to Israel and say, Israel is this this or that, you get the same result.
By the way,
So why do you think, like here in Speaker's Corner, anyone can pretty much say whatever they want within reason, within the law, within the law? I know.
No, you can't.
But I'm saying
Speaker's
pretty
Corner,
much.
even here there are limits.
I know. There's the law.
Even here we have blasphemy laws.
Yeah.
But they've not been implemented since
Let me tell you
the
something.
60s or something.
Let me clarify something.
Okay.
There are blasphemy laws everywhere in the world, in every single society.
Yeah.
Every single society has sacreds.
Yeah. Okay. Let me put it this way:
insult.
if in this country, say someone else said something against Jesus Christ, nobody would do anything to them.
Okay.
There would be no
Here in this
punishment.
country, if you said something about the Jewish people, you know what? That's the blasphemy law.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That's blasphemy.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Call it anti-Semitism. Call it X, Y, and Z. Call it green and blue. Call it what you like. But it is a blasphemy law. It is a law that restricts your freedom to insult someone.
Yeah,
right?
I know that the Jews are like a protected class. You can't insult them.
No. I mean, I can give other examples.
Okay.
If you insult homosexuals,
Right. Yeah, that's another example.
that's a blasphemy.
Yeah.
That's blasphemy legally speaking.
Okay,
You can call it what you like. You can give it a name that is not blasphemy. You can call it a beautiful fairy.
Okay.
Call the law beautiful fairy law, right?
Right.
You can call it with whatever name you want to give.
So what you're saying, there'll always be blasphemy laws in
I'm saying, I'm making a claim today.
Okay.
Every single society,
Yeah.
every single human community,
Yeah.
every single country, every single land in the world has blasphemy laws in place.
in some form.
They just
in
call
some
it-
form
they
or
just
the
call
other.
it something else.
All right. Okay.
They call it blue.
Yeah.
They call
Yeah.
it blue fairy.
Illegal.
They call it eagle law.
Illegal.
They call it illegal.
What you're saying actually makes sense because the word blasphemy, I think it comes from Greek. It doesn't specifically mean saying something against a god or a deity. It actually means
prohibition. Yeah.
they used to say blaspheme the king, for example. You couldn't speak
There
against
you go.
the state.
So what we're trying to say is it's not exclusive to Islam.
So if you blaspheme the Jewish people here, you're a blasphemer.
Yeah, there you go.
If you blaspheme the homosexuals, you're a blasphemer.
Yeah.
If you blaspheme,
No, but if you blaspheme Muslims, it's okay.
Yeah.
Freedom of speech.
Yeah.
that's the blasphemy which doesn't exist, basically.
Which one?
It's blaspheming the Muslims.
Yeah, you can get away with that.
Yeah.
Freedom of speech.
In this country.
That's the hypocrisy.
You see,
Yeah.
Charlie Hebdo in France, blaspheme the Muslims, even the Jewish people. Charlie Hebdo has been mocking, but you cannot mock Macron.
Yeah.
That's blasphemy.
He sued
Because
someone
when they
who drew
did
him as
that,
Hitler.
Macron he was planning to take them to court.
He sued
Yeah.
someone who drew him as Hitler.
Yeah.
He took him to court.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Listen, you're ready to accept Islam. Repeat after me. Ashhadu.
Listen, it's great talking to you guys. Because, look, when I go on the internet, I see so much, I wouldn't call it slander, but a lot of people attacking people like yourself or Mohammed Hijab or yourself. And I'm like, whenever I see like hate directed at someone, I'm like, okay, I want to look deeper into this. And speaking to you guys, you seem to be you're being honest, you're being
And
forthright
it is
with me,
making us
which I
stronger
like.
and stronger.
Yeah.
Okay. This makes us stronger.
Yeah.
This doesn't put us away. This doesn't take us away.
It helps our cause. The fact that you said, what is human psychology? Whenever you see an oppressed group or someone who is being attacked continuously, you think, why?
Yeah, I'm like, why do people hate Muslims so much?
This is why Allah says in the Quran, the disbelievers, hostile, they plan and Allah's the planner. And Allah plans, and He's the best of planners. So what they do by attacking us, all they do is getting genuine, sincere people like you to be like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Why
They
did
get more
I wanted to ask you about that because one of their arguments, they say that word, it means the best of deceivers. So what would be your...
No, that's the wrong. The best of planners.
Yeah.
Okay, the best of planners. Wallahu khairul makirin means Allah is the best of planners. They plan and plot.
Right.
Allah also plots. Allah plots.
Because when you use the word plan or plot, they would say the correct translation is deceives. So deceive means you're telling
Arabic
a lie.
language is more dynamic than one particular choice made by the Christian missionaries and Islamophobes. Because what they do is they pick one meaning, which might be the most viciously, sounding.
The most negative meaning.
If I'm not mistaken, please correct me, Ustad, that I don't know if it's like deceit plot, but let's put that in context. Because what we say is every name that we use for God doesn't mean it's an attribute. So for example, we call God Almighty, most merciful, the very merciful, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. That's His name and that's an attribute of Him. However, there's specific names that is used for God. For example, let's say He's the one, at that instance, He plotted against the disbelievers. We don't call Him the plotter or the deceiver.
Al-Makir. We don't call Allah Al-Makir.
Exactly. So what it is we learn this in Aqidah that, for
Why not? if it's a good thing, it's a bad
When
word.
a police officer goes undercover to expose the mafia, he's going undercover, a plot for the evil people,
Yeah.
That's a plot.
Is he good? Is he doing what he's doing? Is it good or bad?
You mean if he's going undercover joining the plot or whatever?
Firstly, two things. Can plotting be good?
It can be good or bad, actually.
Thank you. Thank you.
Deceiver is just negative.
Exactly.
Yes.
Even I'm going to go far. I'm going to go further. Even deception can be good.
Yes.
Sometimes deception for a greater cause.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not saying the Quran uses that term.
Yeah.
This
is a very good point, because I think it's in Sahih Bukhari.
Yeah.
It says you shouldn't lie, except to for a husband and wife.
Yeah.
To
Three
things.
Three things. Yeah. In war.
Right.
Okay, to basically give your enemy another impression, right? A different impression.
Yeah.
Okay, that kind of, okay, or breaking up between husband and wife or making peace.
Yeah.
And otherwise it is absolutely haram in Islam to lie.
The Prophet ﷺ said a believer is anything but a liar.
And we call it white lie.
Yeah, I know.
Innocent lie. For example, your wife has cooked.
She's cooked.
She has cooked.
Yes. Okay.
You go home
And it's too salty.
and it's disgusting.
Right. Yeah.
What you eat is disgusting. Okay.
And I say it's lovely.
Yeah.
No, you in that case it is not. It might be breaking a heart if you tell her the truth that this is disgusting. Can you say, oh, it's very nice. Thank you so much for your effort, because she's made an effort.
Yeah.
Okay. There are two kinds of people. One will throw the plate on the wall.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is this? Yeah, I can't. Yuck. Right?
Yeah.
The other guy who is following Islam, okay, he will lie. He will lie. He knows this is not true.
Yeah.
Right? But he will to win her heart, to thank her for her efforts.
Yeah.
He will say, "Thank you so much for cooking for me. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I really love you for that."
Yeah.
Now, the first situation is true.
Yeah.
He's truthfully angry.
Right.
He's truthfully reactive.
Yeah.
Right? Or reactionary. Right?
Yeah.
But that truth is damaging. That truth is breaking someone's heart. So in this situation, this is not considered a lie.
Exactly.
Okay, it's considered courtesy.
Yeah.
It's considered courtesy. You know?
If he has a dispute with someone else and they're not talking, and I come to him and say, you know what, I was with that guy and he was praising you so much. He was saying how much he loves you.
Yeah.
So he's like, really, did he say that? I was like, yeah, man, he loved you. And I said, it's just to
bring people together.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you said it's in war between a husband and wife.
But unlike the Christians, we cannot lie to bring people to our faith.
Yes.
The Christians believe that. They do that. They actually lie through their teeth to keep people away from Islam or bring people to their faith. Right? And this is from Paul.
Yeah.
This is Paul's go. To a Jew I become a Jew. To a Gentile I become a Gentile.
Yeah.
In order to
All
bring
things
people
to all men.
And to the Roman, I become a Roman.
Yeah.
But also, in an instance where if your life is in danger, so if someone says, praise my God, otherwise we're going to kill you.
Yeah.
You are allowed to lie to save your life.
Yeah,
So
okay.
do you get what I'm trying to say? In a compulsion, like if they say, praise Jesus, say he's God or I will kill you.
Yeah, and does that extend to things like if you can't get halal food, you can eat haram food?
No, that's if you're in a situation, life and death. You can eat pork.
Yeah. Okay.
No. That's when you have nothing else to eat.
Yeah. Life or death.
You are given pork. You can only eat as much as necessary for you to live.
Not delicious.
Okay. Yeah.
No. Any believer can't even. So it's one of those things. These are extreme circumstances whereby rulings change. Sometimes rulings change due to the circumstances. But under normal circumstances, you have two options. You have beef, you have lamb, and you have pork. It's absolutely, utterly haram, forbidden, prohibited to eat pork. And this is more biblical than what the Christians are doing.
Yeah.
If you read the Bible, pork or swine meat is absolutely forbidden in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Jesus never ate it. He abhorred it.
Yeah.
And Christians are yummying it.
Yeah.
You see, yummy.
Yeah.
Okay, there are pork chop, there is bacon, there is black pudding, all sorts of different dishes. Christians enjoy them.
Yeah.
So this is why we say you're not following Christ.
Yeah.
Stop pretending as if you're following the Christ. You're not following. You don't want to follow him.
Yeah.
You're following someone else.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
That's a gift for us.
Thank you, brother.
We're here every Sunday. Feel free to come. It's an absolute pleasure talking to you. You seem like a sincere man.
Yeah.
I ask you to do one thing. When you go home, just pray and say, God, if you're there, whichever religion is the truth, guide me to it. That's a covenant between you and God. God will send you signs. It's upon you to take it or reject it.
You say he will give me signs?
Yes, because now it's
From reading the Quran.
Ask him, say whatever's the truth.
Yeah.
I'm not saying say Islam. Whichever the truth, guide me to it.
Okay.
And watch what happens.
Okay, thank you, Ali.
Look, it's a pleasure, man. Thank you very much.
Very nice talking to you.
Same.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure talking to you. I do apologize for this intervention or intrusion.
It might warm his heart to look into Islam more now because of this kind of thing.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Keep in touch. And if you live in London, come around anytime on. Okay, no worries. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Hope this video was helpful for you. This may help others too, so please consider sharing, and we will bring more videos in the future, inshallah. So consider subscribing and you won't miss any. Jazakallahu khairan.